Hello everybody, this is Mr. Goth here, as you can see. Hi. And this is just going to be a recap of the skills that we've covered in Macromedia Flash 8 so far. So I'm going to cover tweening and motion paths and making buttons, action scripts, those kinds of things. So that is what we're going to go through right now. I'm going to try and cover all of them in this video, and then you can stop, pause as you need to find what you need. So first things first, make sure that you have a blank document available. And you also want to make sure you view, magnification, and fit in window so you can see everything that you're doing. Another thing that you should have that would be helpful is your control buttons up. If you click on window, toolbars, you can toggle the control buttons here. And those are really nice to have when you're testing things out to make sure they're working, to have those play buttons on demand. Alright, first thing we're going to do is a really easy one, motion tweening. So for motion tweening, we're simply going to move a shape from one spot on the canvas to another. To do that, we're just going to insert a simple shape, like so. And then we're going to insert a keyframe at a completely arbitrary point. As you work on this more and are making your creations, you'll make that just based on the timing of your animation. So I'm going to insert a keyframe here. And then in a keyframe, I can do whatever I want and it won't affect everything else. And that allows me to make the motion happen when we tween. So I'm going to go ahead and move this over. And then I can simply right click and create a motion tween. And now it will move. It's very simple. Obviously you could take it more complex than that, but at its simplest level, that is how a motion tween works. Alright, so that's part one. Part 1A, aka part 2, will be color tweening. It uses motion tweening, but there's some tweaks to it we have to do. Let's hide this layer because that's going to get in the way if we just keep seeing that. And then with color tweening, we have to use instances of a symbol. It does not work otherwise. So you have symbols created if you've already tweened something, but if you don't have any symbols, you can change that really easily by creating a shape. Then if you arrow click it, right click it, you can convert to symbol, call whatever you want, and then it'll come over here. And you want to make sure to delete what's on the canvas and then pull off a fresh symbol. This is your instance. This is what you'll use for your color tweening. Then you'll go ahead and insert a keyframe at the end. And the way you change colors for this is actually down in the property inspector. So you'll click on the shape, and where it says color, that's where you'll make your changes, whether it be brightness, tint, alpha. I like to go into advanced and then click on settings. Then I can actually change the color values and watch the changes as I go. I really like those. We're getting dark. We're very, very dark. We don't want to be black. We don't want to be red. Let's be... Now we're back to yellow. Alright. Trying to find a happy in-between color here. I guess we'll be red. If you're a little bit better with colors, I'm sure you can tinker with that a little bit. You can also add some more over here to change them as well. So that's colors right there. Not going to spend too much time on that. But now basically the way you make this tween work is you right click and you just create a motion tween. And that will allow you to change the colors as you go from left to right. So that's color tweening. Moving on. Just before that, just a reminder about the symbol. It needs to be an instance of a symbol in order for that to work. Next step, we'll right click layer 2, insert layer, hide the previous one. We're going to do shape tweening. Shape tweening, I think, is my personal favorite. You can make a shape turn into a letter, or a picture turn into a letter or a shape, and it gives you some really interesting options to do. So I'm going to go ahead and just take a simple circle. Once again, I know I'm boring. I'm hoping you're a little more creative than me. And then I want to make this into a letter. So I'm going to insert a keyframe at the end here. And then for this keyframe, I'm going to click on our text, and I'm going to just type in a letter. We're going to call it a G. And I'm going to make it a different color down here. Let's call it, let's do purple. Yellow and purple Vikings colors. There we go. The important thing is on this last keyframe, make sure that you do not have this yellow thing visible. Let's get rid of that. You want to click on that with the arrow and delete it. A couple more things we have to do to make this work. First, we have to right click on this letter and we have to break it apart. That turns it into a vector and allows us to do things to it. Then we simply click in any of these frames in the middle, go down to Tween, and choose Shape Tween. And there are a lot of other options you can use, but basically that's a shape tween. It will now go from a circle into a purple G. Very neat. The more frames you use, the smoother the transition, which is pretty neat. So those are your shape tweens. Next up, I'm going to do another layer. Insert layer. Now we have motion paths that we're going to try. So with this layer, we also want to create a motion guide. Click on that. Should have those two things in. Hide layer 3. And then we're going to go ahead and on our first keyframes for 4, just draw a simple shape. And then on the keyframe for your guide, I like to use the pencil. I find it the easiest to create a path that my shape can follow. So it can be windy. You can do whatever you want with your path. You can also use other options to make your path work. Alright, now the fun part. And it's kind of tricky. It's very touchy to get it to work quite right. You need to insert keyframes in your last 2 frames here. Alright. Down here is where we need to create the motion. So click anywhere in here, and then we will simply go down and create motion tween. And then it's very important that we have snap and orient to path on. And you'll see why in a minute. We want it to stick with the path that we've created. Right. And then you want to make sure that you click on your first keyframe here. Click your arrow, and grab this, and try and get that middle part to fit and snap. That's what you want to see happen. You see that little circle? Snap. You want that to happen. If it doesn't, it's not working right. You got to figure out what's going on. Then at the end, excuse me, in this last keyframe, we want to take this and snap it to the end of our line. So by doing this, this should allow our shape to ride along our curves. And that is how a motion path works. So I know I struggled with that in class today, trying to get that to go smoothly for you. That is how you should do it. So thankfully we have this video that actually shows the proper way of doing a motion path. So that's that. Alright, we also covered a couple other things. We covered making buttons, and we also looked at action scripts for those buttons. So let's show that quickly. Let's add one more layer, and let's hide these, and we'll create a button on this layer. To do that, you simply insert new symbol, and then make sure you choose button, and then we're just going to call it button 1. And click OK. And then, much like in fireworks, we get up, over, and down options. Starting with up, I'm just going to do something very simple with this. Alright, home. Home is where the heart is. Home should be a little smaller though. And that way it'll fit. So highlight it. That's better. And then we will get home to fit right on top of our button. We probably don't want purple. We want something that's actually going to show up. Oh, wait. That'll work. So that's up. Then you also make over and down. You need to right click and insert keyframe to make that happen. And then you change what you want to change with it. I think I'm going to toggle the background. That's the most noticeable change. Over is when your mouse is over it. And then down is when it's actually clicked and depressed. So not depressed and it's feeling lonely. It's just pressed down. So click on that, and we'll do one more different color here. Try anyways. Apparently we keep coming back to purple. Alright, so we have that here. Alright, last part is a hit. Insert a keyframe for that. Hit is just the area in which it will trigger the up, over, and down. And you don't really have to put one in. If you want, you can extend it so there's a little bit of an overlap. And then if this goes in front, you can just modify, arrange, and then send back. So there's that for buttons. Then we can simply close out of this. We're all done with that. Head back to our scene. And then here, we just drag an instance of the button onto the canvas. Alright, here's where it gets a little tricky. Right now it's just a button. If we went and we tested out our movie, now we got a lot of crazy stuff going on here from what we've created so far. Home, you can see that it works. When it's clicked, it does all the changes and registers when it needs to. But if we want to make this go somewhere, that is a little trickier. We have to add an action script in. Now there are a ton of action scripts that do a lot of different things. We just want to do a simple go to URL with this is what we want to do. So down here you have an actions panel, and what we want to look at is this get URL option. Now if we're clicked right, we double click that, you should get this option for on release and then the actual URL. Make sure you clicked on the script assist before you did this, then you'll just get these easy boxes to type things into. So I'm going to want this to go to ESPN.com. Make sure you type in the HTTP part, HTTP. Otherwise, it might think it's part of an internal website, which would be different if you were linking to a page in your own site. You'd want to just use the name of the site. So we're going to go there, and we're going to open it in its own window. So about blank. So this should be set to go. We were clicked on our button, so it should be set to that. Then we can just let this go. And then if we go and we test our movie, then when we click on that, it should take us to ESPN.com. So that, in a brief version, covered tweening, actions, and buttons. A lot of the cool things that you can do with this particular program. Now, there are a lot of other options. Clearly, we have only scratched the surface, but I think this is more than enough to get us started. If you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, this video should serve as a really good helper to make sure you're on the right track as you go along. Thank you very much. Please use it, and good luck making Flash stuff. Actually, a couple more things before I go. Almost forgot to go over sounds and importing images. Pretty simple things, but I wanted to go over those nonetheless. I'm going to insert a new layer, hide this one. For importing images, you just go to File, Import, and then you can import straight to the stage or the library, and then you can pick any image that you want if you have one available to you to easily throw in there. So like there, import an image. If you want to do shape tweening with that, you'll have to break that apart. Same way as we did before, right click, and then break apart. With sounds are a little trickier. You've got to add some specific triggers for those. But for sounds, it works much the same way, except you import to library. And then you just need to find a sound file that you'd like to use. I had trouble with MP3s. You might have better luck. Otherwise, you can convert to a WAV file, and then that will actually open up into your library. It takes a little bit of time depending on the size of the file. And then you can pull it right in by clicking on your layer, and then down here in sound you can add it, and then you can choose what you'd like it to do, whether it's streams, event, start or stop. Stream, it will stop when the frame ends. So that's really nice. It kind of controls the chaos. I know we didn't get that quite right today either in class, but if you do stream, it will end when the clip ends. So if we put it all together, there's our crazy little movie right there, all the different tweenings that we did. So thank you very much for being patient and for watching this video. If you have any questions, once again, please let me know. Have a nice day.